The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. Take two. If you're watching, we are having some massive technical difficulties that are not us. It's something outside the building. So we're back. I don't know how long we're back for. We're going to do things in a slightly different order this morning. Because we have a guest that was supposed to be joining us at 10:20, and we adore him and we don't want to make him wait. So a little bit later on in the show, I'm going to get to the jargon of the day. I do want to remind all of you, though, that this show is meant to be interactive. There are many different ways to watch the show. One of them is by watching us on our homepage, which is autism-live.com. I don't know, Kelby, if you even want to cycle through all the other ways that or whether we should get to endless games. But there are many, there we go. There's many different ways that you can be watching the show. We love it when you watch us on the homepage only because you can then use the interactive live feature. We are live right now. If you put your cursor in the your question box, hit start typing, hit enter, and then you and I can have a conversation together and you can ask wonderful questions of our experts. Great way for you to participate with us, and there are many ways to participate with us. But you know, it's Festival of Toys time. It's Hanukkah, it's the holidays, it's Christmas. There are lots of different reasons for people to be in the toy store and looking for the perfect gift for someone. And that could be someone who's 6 months old, or it could be someone who's 66 and 6 months old, right? So today, our toy of the day comes to us from Endless Games, one of our favorite companies. And the game of the day is Spill and Spell. This is a particularly fun version of Spill and Spell because this is Spill and Spell roll call, so you get two games in one. So we're going to be talking about this game with a fabulous friend, Brian Turtle. Kelby, do we have to take a break before we're joined by Brian, or are we bringing him right? Okay. So we're going to take a break before we do that, but I want to say that endlessgames.com, amazing place to go to find really one-of-a-kind games that are really going to help your family to bond, going to help your kids on the autism spectrum to be a part of things, and work on a wide variety of skills. We've featured many of their games before. This is the first time that we are featuring Spill and Spell, and I also have another game here that we're going to be talking about today, Red Light, Green Light, 1, 2, 3. Are we going to show the camera roll video right now, Kelby? We're going to do that later. We're going to do that later. No, it's okay. So we're going to take a short break. I'm going to start setting up the game because we're going to play a lovely game of Spill and Spell roll call with from show us some other stuff too. But first, here are these messages. Mid-swing on this wonderful day, this wonderful walk with Mr. Matt Asner. Talk to us about today's walk. Do we have any facts, figures, numbers, or just pure emotion?
Just pure emotion. I'm about to get the numbers. We'll see what it is. Okay. I think it's probably close to 1.6, probably. That's my feeling. But it's incredible. We had 55,000 people plus here today. And you know, I honestly, I've been here 7 years. It gets better and better and better. So.
And really what you've fostered here today is hope. I know that's your favorite four-letter word.
Where are we without hope?
Where are we?
Really, I mean, seriously, where are we without hope? Hope is everything. Hope is eternal.
did you learn about autism through portraying this wonderful character?
Sort of the individuality of it, like with autism spectrum disorders, a tendency is to sort of generalize everybody with sort of the same degree of affliction as sort of exactly the same, and very generalize them a lot. But something I found while just talking to everybody, and that I tried to put into the characters, just the sense of individuality that all of them have, everybody has. And so at a certain point it became not really even portraying autism, it just sort of became portraying the character.
I want to thank you on behalf of everybody for what you do.
That's very sweet.
To bring awareness and to raise money. That's a tremendous, tremendous legacy. But as a dad, you've got other things that you're doing as well.
Yeah.
I want to know, as a family, if you have any advice, what's been something that's been helpful to you personally?
Get your autistic kids out in the community. I mean, my son's got a guide dog, so he goes to a lot of cool places. He surfs, he skis, does gymnastics. He's actually trying Hebrew school. I'm not quite sure if he knows what's happening there, but he does all kinds of cool things, and he has a lot of friends. Right now, most of his friends are the adults who take care of him, and over time, hopefully he'll have more friends who are his age, and you'll see him walking around, and people won't be nervous around him. The dog's been very helpful with that. It's like the dog is like the most infectious thing in the world. Like, everybody wants to be near the dog, and he sees that, and he gets some of that affection laid onto him. So as a family, we're just there to support Tyler and make him happy.
Welcome back to Autism Live during the festival.
It was great to talk to you.
All right, well, we see that you are dressed elfish.
Got my fake me out Christmas sweater on here.
I love it. It's absolutely wonderful. And you've got some games there with you that we're going to talk about. But I want to start by talking about Spill and Spell. There's two different kinds of Spill and Spell. There's Spill and Spell Classic, and then there's Spill and Spell Roll Call. And what's particularly cool about this version is that you get two games in one.
Right.
So we're very excited about that. So, Brian, I've got Spill and Spell here on my desk, and I'm starting with just classic. I've put my yellow dice away in the cup, and I've spilled my white dice all over. So I want to talk to our viewers a little bit about how we play Spill and Spell Classic. Help us out.
Sure. Well, Spill and Spell Classic is you get 1 minute to create as many words as you can with the letter cubes, the letter dice. It's kind of a Spill and Spell actually predates some probably more familiar letter dice games that exist today, like Boggle. There's another great letter dice game called Perquacky, and they all sort of owe some of their gameplay to Spill and Spell, as a matter of fact, which is about 60 or 70 years old right now. And the gameplay is very simple. You roll out the letter cubes, or you spill them out, and then you spell words, hence Spill and Spell.
You have some dice there too. Should we play around?
Sure.
This is my favorite time because you and I actually get to play usually. So I've got my dice spilled out, and I want to spell as many words as I can, and I kind of want to do it in like a crossword pattern, right? So if I get one going up, I get more points for that, right?
That's right. When you can crisscross the words, you score double points.
Okay.
So, and what it is for 3-letter words, you're scoring 1 point per letter. 4-letter words is 2 points per letter. 5-letter words, 3 points per letter. And then anything bigger than that, you're scoring 3 points per letter. So the longer the words you can make, the more scoring opportunity you have.
Okay. I'm not a great speller, but I'm making hay here.
Well,
And if and do I have to keep them all in one crossword, or can I add more?
Oh, you can add more. You can do as many crosswords as possible.
So they can be separate from the other ones.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're on a 1 minute timer, I should
Okay.
add. So I've got a clock on here on my
Okay.
end.
So I've already made one here that says bar going down and made across.
Wow, yours are even related.
I hadn't even thought about that. I am so like I can't walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. But see, here's what's fun about this, you guys, is that you can play this in so many different ways. Oh, I see pie here. Is pied a word? I'm going to say pied, like Pied Piper.
Okay.
But what's great about this is that everybody in the family can be playing. If you've got kids that are a little bit younger that are sort of pre-spellers, they can be on a team with somebody and they can be helping to identify letters. And then there's the whole thing about doing points. Oh, that is a word. I'm very excited. Do I get extra points if I use all of my letters?
I think there's something in there if you use all. What it is you subtract a point for each unused letter dice. So you will have
so
no
I lost no
subtracted
points. I've used all of my cubes.
Well, we'll go ahead and stop there then, because I think you've probably beaten me. But I can
that
show
would be
you kind
shocking
of
to me,
what
Brian.
I've
That would be
created
positively.
here.
What have you got on yours?
Well, I don't know if you can see it
I
the way
can
I'm
see.
holding this.
Look at you.
I've
Oh my
got
gosh.
toy, ray, ran, fine, fib, and cub, and they're all intersecting, or they're all in the crossword type.
Yours is much prettier than mine. I've got bar and maid. I've got chic, mug, and rim is attached to mug. I've got pied, and I've got hay. So I think point-wise, you've got me all kind of beat because yours are all connected and mine are not.
Yeah, well, it's not necessary to connect them all. Mine just sort of directed itself that way. If we were playing Scrabble, who knows?
You've done this longer than I have. But what I wanted to say too is that this is a really fun game because and we're going to talk a little bit later on this show about particularly like how we can set up all kinds of playing board games with kids that are on the spectrum and make it reinforcing. But what I really, from beginning to end, clever, the way you package things is so efficient and so lovely. Everything comes to you in this one cup. You get your instructions, you get your pencil, so you don't have to go looking for a pencil, and it has your score sheet here, and it's got all the different pieces in it. And it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. So the cup doubles as your thing to shake them out. Now,
Right, that's your dice cup that you can roll them out.
I gotta say, this is one of those things that the younger kids really love. There's something about shaking the cup and the noise that it makes. I'm not gonna make a lot of it because with the mic it'll drive everybody crazy. But there's something about that that's really fun. And so you have the thing where you shake the cup, and we probably would put a limit on how many times or how long they can shake the cup and then spill it. There's a minute long thing that happens, and then the dice go back in the cup. As strange as it may seem, you're working on fine motor skills picking up the dice to go in. You're working on a little bit more gross motor to shake the cup, and you're working on inhibition to not shake the cup too long. I mean, those are 3 great lessons for our kiddos that are on the autism spectrum, and we're not even talking about all the educational opportunities once you're playing the game and the fact that you're taking turns. No matter what I do with my mic, I am making noises for you. Kelby is going to shoot me. I'm putting it way over there, Kelby.
Well, the thing about classic Spill and Spell is that it's such a basic, simple word game, and there's always a need for a word game, whether it's password or Scrabble or Boggle or Spill and Spell. They're a great way to reinforce spelling tools or to learn new vocabulary, and it's just a fun way to incorporate some of that learning element into a sort of a party game type of play.
Absolutely. And I have seen playing this kind of game with our kiddos, you got to be a little patient in the beginning because it takes them a little while to get into the mindset, but it's great if you model putting them together. I mean, I just learned from the way you put together your letters, Brian. I learned a little bit more. I was like, oh, well, I could have done that and I could have done it. Our kids will get that too. And you will see very quickly that our kids will add words, as you said, to their vocabulary and the way they put the letters together to get the maximum points. It's a really super cool game. But then now you've added something to it that has made it roll call. So talk to us a little bit about what these yellow dice are.
Right. So what happened here was a game inventor who created another famous word game called Word on the Street. A guy by the name of Jack Degnan came up with this word game that he was calling roll call, that involved using letter cubes and using other cubes that we have here that show categories on them. So it'll say adjective or action or thing. So now you're not just rolling to make any word off the top of your head. You're trying to actually roll your letters to then find what you can of these category dice. So the way roll call plays and how it all sort of came together as a spill and spell roll call is I had my friend game inventor Jack Degnan over here with this great word game. We had our spill and spell game over here, and it was sort of like one of those Reese's peanut butter cup moments where it was two great tastes that taste great together. And we created what we now have as spill and spell roll call. So we kept the classic spill and spell instructions in the canister here, but we added the 7 category dice to play roll call. And roll call, it's got that same sort of engine behind it where you're putting the letter cubes in the cup and shaking them up and spilling them out onto the table. But whereas spill and spell, classic spill and spell, it's a 1 player at a time game. Roll call is all play. So everybody's looking at the letter cubes. Everybody's trying to spot a 5-letter word and snatch that category cube, or to spot something, an adjective. Or even with what I had created when we played Spill and Spell, I would take the thing die because I had the word toy. So that would qualify as a thing. Now, you're not going to take the letter cubes away because everybody's still using all of those. So you're not really manipulating the letter cubes as much. You're just pointing out how certain words are spelled that fit the categories of the category dice. So you're trying to collect the category dice and not move the letters or really mess with the letters too much.
Okay, so can we play around?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'm putting all of my yellow dice, and I'm sorry it's so loud, in the cup. I'm shaking. I'm not going to look at them yet, but I just want people to see. So you dump them all over. The yellow dice are there, the other dice are there, and we're not going to move the white dice.
You can sort of point it out
Yes.
when you have something. So let's see if I can show
Okay,
you.
so on my dice, my yellow dice, I've got person, action, 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 thing, wild for wild card, and a 5+. So
Right, a 5+ would be for a 5-letter word, or five letters or more, and that's worth. This is in red, so this is a double point category die.
okay, so
I've got cat. I can take thing.
okay, so so he said cat, and he can take away the thing. Now, while we're playing this too, I want to point out that for those of you who have kids that are at the point where they're learning in English class about verbs, and they're learning about nouns, and they're learning about adjectives, this is the great game to play, because they're going to get those kinds of things faster, that something is an action, and that something is a thing that makes it a noun, and the adjective, they're going to get that much faster. And it forces them to use their brain in very flexible ways to think at the same time, which I'm not doing a good job of right here.
Right. Well, I'm not doing as good on getting any 5 letters, but I got an adjective here because I have the letters F-I-T, so fit would fit that bill.
Very good.
Person, I have.
I've got van, so I'm taking the thing cube, so I get the points for that.
I have M-A-T for Matt. That qualifies as a person, so I've got the person category die.
Okay, and I've got J-A-Y for J, so I'm taking the person die. I've got a bunch of action ones, and I can't see any.
If you kind of hit that stalemate, you are allowed a respill.
Oh, okay, I've got jot. That's an action, jotting something down.
And I'm doing tax as an action because you can be taxed.
Okay.
So that would be 7 category cubes that were played.
There we go.
We were playing together. We'd only have the 7 to play with. So we would
Exactly.
stop our round there. I've got 4, and you've got 3.
You win. You win.
I won that round.
I have
Right.
been schooled by Brian Turtle. So these kinds of games are so fun. What I love about them, there are games when you want to spend a lot of time playing, where you're going to get out the board game and you got to count out the money, and somebody's got the bank and all of that stuff,
You gotta
right?
pack a lunch.
Right, you got to pack a lunch, and you're going to be up till 2:00 in the morning, and that's all well and good. But for our kiddos on the spectrum, a lot of times you're going to sit down and play a game together, and you want it to be something that's fast moving, that you play for maybe 15 minutes, and then you're going to play something else. Well, what's really cool about this game is that you could play the spill and spell for 15 minutes, and when they start to get a little anxious, then you add in the roll call part of it. You're bonding, you're spending good time, you're getting them to think and react, which is great for executive functions, it's great for flexibility, and they're learning, and you're spending that time together. It's one of the hallmarks of the Endless Games line, that it's good, quality, fun time for the family.
That's really what we're all about, and we're about having that good quality fun time with the family in a little bit of an unplugged way. You know, we want to have it where there's human interaction and not just playing a video game. So everything we do here really emphasizes the fact that we're gathered around as a family or as a group of friends, and we're interacting with one another. It's the best games really are the ones where you kind of go, as you're playing the game, it leads to a story about your day, or it leads to an anecdote about something that may have happened last week. So as you play the games, you're sort of sharing moments of your life and just sort of having a good time establishing those connections with your friends and your family.
Absolutely. Now, this particular game is rated 8 and up, but I would venture for some of our hyperlexic kids that are out there on the autism spectrum that are particularly good at spelling, this is the perfect game, and you could probably do that with a 5-year-old who's hyperlexic. And we're going to take a break and look at one of your other games. When we come back, we're going to talk about a game that's meant for the littler ones that are just in that pre-reading and beginning reading, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, which is a really fun card game to play with them. But we're going to see a video about a great game that you guys have out called Camera Roll. Do we need any setup for that, Brian?
Well, the only thing I would say, so I don't sound like a total hypocrite, is that Camera Roll actually does involve a little bit of a plugged-in element, in that it plays with photos that you would have on your phone or on your iPad or whatever. But it's a rare case where that accessory, being your phone or your iPad, doesn't compete with the human interactivity of the game. It actually enhances it. And I think when you see the video, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're absolutely, all those kids that you have that are got their heads stuck in a cell phone and you want to interact with them, this is the game. So take a look. This is Endless Games Camera Roll.
Hello, fellow activists. In our
Welcome back. We're having all kinds of technical fun here with Brian Turtle from Endless Games. We were trying to show you a video of a hot new game that they have out this holiday season called Camera Roll. But we are having more difficulties than we can. Poor Kelby is juggling plates and threatening to light his hair on fire because we're having catastrophic failure of internet here. And we're still trying to work around it. So Brian, thank you for being such a good sport, first of all. And sure. I think this is a fascinating game because it does involve, especially for those of us who have teens and tweens that have their heads stuck in a phone, it involves having them bring their phone to the table so that we can all play. Tell us what they do then.
Okay, so what the game is I think it's 288 different category cards that would be all dressed up, or that's amazing, an amusement park. So what happens is, I'll just pull one off at random here. I'm going to draw a card, and then anyone who's playing the game would have 30 seconds. There's this fancy electronic timer here that I still have in the packaging. But we would hit the timer, and then everyone would have 30 seconds to find something. Let's see here. This would be, how about fast food? So that might be difficult for some. Other people might have a picture of a Big Mac in their camera roll, but everybody playing has 30 seconds to pull out the first photo they can find in their pictures of fast food. That's a pretty tough example. Let's try if it was this card here. Here's one I had open on the table, a relative. So everyone has
That's
their
going to be
phone.
easy.
Right. Sometimes it's a difficult thing like fast food, like I frankly don't have, so it wouldn't make for a good example here. But sometimes it would be something more open to interpretation, like that's exciting. That could mean any number of different things. There was one that was we played. It was something hot, and one person had a picture of a sunset. One person had a picture of his car. Another guy had a picture of like a girl in a bikini. So you can really kind of stretch your imagination on how you can create your own interpretation of what's on the card.
Well, I
So
think
in
this game is brilliant because
Yeah.
because it really does get those teens and tweens to the table, and once you get them playing it's a pile of giggles. I can't wait. I'm going to take this one, Brian, to there's a friend's house that we go to for Christmas Eve, and there's about 15 people, and everybody's of different ages. But this is the kind of thing that will get everybody, including Aunt Betty, to the table, and get everybody playing it. The littler kids that are 10 and 12 can play with somebody if they don't already have a cell phone. But I know that there's the three boys that are tweens will then start running around the house taking pictures of things. Right? It'll erupt into chaos.
That's exactly what happens. And the thing that's nice about the game is that it really does. It doesn't segregate from any age. As long as you have some photos, you don't necessarily have to even have it on your phone. You can break it out and play it with a photo album.
Right.
So if Aunt Betty doesn't have the modern technology at her disposal, she can break out the old picture album, and then everyone can look at those photos. And what's really great is the other sort of layer to this game is that once everybody gets their photo that matches what's on the category card, then everyone has to tell a story about their picture and why the photo they chose best represents what's on the category. So there's that human interaction again. I'm showing you a moment from my life, and now I'm also telling you why that was such an important moment that I had to break out the camera and photograph it in the first place. So it's a really cool way to relive a lot of those moments that we took the picture of.
And I got to tell you that most people wouldn't know this. You probably don't know this, but that describing what's happening in a picture and telling a story around it is a whole program that is very important and pivotal for individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And at different points in their development, there are different things that you work on when you're talking about the picture and explaining the story that happens. But for those of you who watch this show on a regular basis, you're working on episodic memory, you're working on saliency, because if you say, oh, well, so-and-so is in the background, but you're not talking about what the most important thing is that happened in the story, then you're not telling the most important story. There are a whole host of lessons. They call it V and V, and it escapes me what the V and the V stand for, but it is a very important segment of graduating from just knowing labels to being able to have conversations. So great game.
Yeah, that was a happy coincidence. I wish I could tell you we had all of that in mind when we developed Camera Roll, but I'm glad that it does hit on all those positive notes for folks on the spectrum as well.
It does. So, and next up, Brian, I have in front of me red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. And this is particularly great for those younger kids who maybe aren't reading yet, definitely don't have a cell phone. And it's a great card game, slightly different than probably anything people have ever had. So we would deal out how many cards to each other?
7 cards.
Okay, so I'm going to deal myself 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, obviously, it's going to be difficult for us to play this long distance.
But really, this gameplay format is so basic and so simple. And it's a very familiar name. We used to play a game called Red Light, Green Light, 1, 2, 3 in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
And it involved, when the one person who was sort of the traffic light would turn around and say green light, we'd have to run up toward that person. If they said red light, we'd have to stop. And so it was really sort of based on that familiar concept, but we spun it into a card game. And the cards feature red lights, green lights, or your 1s, 2s, and 3s. And so the way it plays is you're dealt 7 cards. On your turn, you can actually win the game on the first turn if you have the right cards in your hand. You're going to play any number of cards. You can play 1 card, 2 card, or your whole hand of cards as long as you can play it in sequence of red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. So if I'm up and let's say I've got this selection of cards in my hand, and I play red light, green light, and I have a 1, but I do not have a card for 2. So my turn ends there. It goes over to you, and you have to lead with number 2.
Okay. So I would play the 2 and a 3, and then I start back to the beginning, correct?
Right, exactly. So
So-
you just flip it back over to red
So I
light.
play my
you-
red light, I got a green light, I've got a 1 and a 2. Now I can't play anymore, so I need to draw a card, and it goes back to you.
Right, so then I'm up on 3. I play 3, and then back to red light, green light. I don't have a 1, so it's your turn.
Okay, so I'm going to play a 1, but I don't have anything else. I'm going to draw a card. It's back to you.
Right. So I don't have a 2 in my hand, so I'm drawing a card. So basically, it would continue on in this process until somebody would play out all the cards in their hand.
And this is a great game. A lot of times over the holidays, you have a relative visiting who perhaps doesn't know as much about autism. This is a great game to play with your child this week and next week. And then when the relative gets here, then to have an icebreaker between that relative and your child, you have them sit down and play a game like this, because it gives them that introduction. Your child will be able to play this if we get the rules on board right now. Great, because we're working on the fine motor of holding cards in your hand, which is an important skill, right? You're counting, you're recognizing and keeping track, taking turns, practicing winning and losing. But it really, I think that these kinds of games can be so helpful for other relatives who are coming and they don't know how to initiate contact with your child. Maybe they're a little bit nervous about it. This is a perfect icebreaker.
Yeah, it really is. And we've spoken before. I have some relatives. One in particular is my niece, my goddaughter, Caitlin. She's on the spectrum. And I always enjoy engaging her in our newest games from Endless Games. And what's fun is that when I'll play the games with Caitlin, it'll build her confidence so that she'll want to then interact with other members of the family and play it with them. So it's great for the person on the spectrum as well as for the folks who are trying to figure out a way in to have some sort of interaction with the person on the spectrum.
Absolutely. Games are so good for our kids. And we're going to be talking a little bit later in the next hour about why they're particularly good at length and how you set it up to be able to use games and some of the different lessons and where people can get the lessons so that they'll know what to do depending on what they're working on. But I have to say that we can't leave without talking about the fact that these are just 3 of the many games that Endless Games has in their library. We can send people to endlessgames.com, correct, Brian?
Yep. Endlessgames.com. We're on Facebook and Twitter as well, so folks can look us up on those social media sites.
You
and
can
follow
buy
us.
them on Amazon. Most of the games, if not all of the games, correct?
Yeah, you can pretty much buy them all on Amazon, and that's always great as a last resort. I would recommend always to get out there and shop local, support your small independent toy stores in your neighborhood, and if they're not carrying Endless Games, then tell them to contact Brian Turtle. I'm ready to ship them.
And Brian will make it happen. We
I
know
will
this
make
about
it happen.
Brian.
In my fake Christmas sweater.
I love it, and your perseverance through all our technical issues. Brian, thank you so much for all that you do. Please give our best to everybody at Endless Games. We hope that you guys have wonderful, wonderful holidays, and thank you for being a part of our Toy Festival. I want everybody to know that Brian and Endless Games have donated a bunch of each of these games, Roll Call and Red Light, Green Light 1, 2, 3, that we are going to be giving away in our Sensitive Santa event event that you can still register for. We still have some tickets for. They're totally free, but you do have to have a ticket to go to them, and that's happening on December 20th. Kelby will put up the address for us that you need to go to make sure you register. You got to have a ticket. If you're bringing neurotypical siblings, that's wonderful. We welcome them. Make sure that they thank you so much for donating the toys, because I know that they're going to go to some really grateful kids and families.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for being with us, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Happy holidays.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Really, really wonderful, high-quality games, really well packaged too. I love me some endless games. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. Actually, we're going to take a break and go to the A Word, a really amazing documentary following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed at the age of 2 and is trying to find a way to communicate with his parents. So take a look, and then we're going to be back, and we're going to talk about all those reasons why we play board games and ways that you can make it really educational. We're going to supercharge our game time. Stick with us.
Hi, Jeff Riley. Look at me. Good looking, buddy. I brought some toys to play with today. Is that cool? Okay, you want to play? Say,
Therapy, that one-on-one, when kids have been in an environment where no one understands them, and then you finally put them in an environment where they understand all the consequences, of where they see, oh, you know, if they did something that was supposed to be done, they get reinforced for it.
say, there we go. Good job.
For the first time, kids start to understand kind of interaction, because it's made very clear in therapy. We'll start just like all therapy, which is we start with compliance.
Do this. Good job. It's your turn.
Really working on getting him to listen to us, listen to a few directions like stand up or come here.
This is come here. All right, bud? Okay, try by yourself, okay? Come here. All right, you did it. Good job. See, that was so easy.
The idea is that we had to get his attention first. And once you get a good foundation of compliance, then his therapy would be a combination of at the table, where it's very clear and succinct language, combined with just more play.
You say, what is that? Banana, that's right. Banana. What else do you see? Carrots. Good talking.
Then we look at language, making sure that he can make his desired requests and needs met, getting him to figure out that, hey, I'm learning these words, and these words are actually useful. It teaches them the idea of communication and not using another person as a tool.
Okay, sure. Here you go.
And then also what's important to the family. You know, what behaviors or what areas of focus do they need help with?
One goal, I don't know how we're going to get there, but one of the things I've noticed that's different about him is I'll see a 2-year-old in one of our little restaurants that we can take him, and the kid just feeds himself lunch. Now Jack feeds himself pancakes, he feeds himself applesauce, but most everything else we have to feed him, and I'm really looking forward to the day where he just eats.
Okay, so that's banana by a spoon. He likes the taste of banana, he doesn't mind the texture in his mouth, but when you get the visual into it, he gets very upset. So it just strikes me that it's all behavior.
He's playing defensive ball right now.
And there was banana in that yogurt too, so he eats it every day. And he gets so upset, so offended.
I think a lot of his issues with eating have developed into behavioral issues. I think he may have had texture issues, and I think he probably still has a lot of sensory issues, but I think a lot of it now is habit.
I think for Jack Riley, he was very tactile defensive in his mouth. He just doesn't like the feeling of it. And then it moves into a routine. It moves into the rigidity of autism, where they only want to eat certain things. They like what is familiar, and they like to do the same things over and over. And I think the fact that he's not eating food where he really has to chew, that's going to affect his oral motor development, which will affect his language and how clear he is. Getting some of that muscle development going in his face and his mouth, because you're going to have to use a lot of those muscles to be able to make sounds and make words.
It is Thursday night. Day 2 of our official ABA services have kicked in, and we are getting ready for bed. We run our energies off at night before bedtime. After the intensity of ABA, it's shocking that he has any energy. We think he'll sleep very well tonight. They're definitely pushing him to say sounds and do things he's not used to doing. He had a few meltdowns, and he did okay. He's gonna be so smart. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are doing our show sort of out of sequence today because we've had a lot of technical issues, quite frankly. and we're keeping a sense of humor about it. So we didn't get a chance to do jargon at the start of the show, so we're going to do jargon now because we can, and it's different, and why not? Jargon of the day, and that doesn't even want to work. Just cracking me up. When we get an opportunity, hopefully you can still hear me, but when you can see me again, we're going to be talking today about today's jargon term, the jargon du jour. There it is, jargon of the day. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Is positive behavior supports. Now, I know that there is a provider that's called PBS, but that's not what I'm talking about. And I know that there is a channel that's called PBS, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about positive behavior supports. I had a phone conversation with somebody, a mom, just this morning about how important it is that we have this written into our BIPs, that this is the way that we approach things. Okay, so let's take a look at what our actual definition for positive behavior supports is. It's the broad enterprise of helping people develop and engage in adaptive, socially desirable behaviors and overcome patterns of destructive and stigmatizing responding. All right. What? Let's take a look at what the working definition for this is. Changing challenging behavior by making challenging behaviors less rewarding and desirable behaviors more rewarding. So this is one of the phrases that you'll hear in schools. They'll say, well, we're putting positive behavioral supports in place. I know you look at it and you go, that sounds a lot like applied behavior analysis. Yes, it does. But this is maybe a way of jargoning it. Many times you guys ask us, well, the school doesn't, they don't do ABA, and like, how can I get it into the IEP? This is one more way that you can say that we're using positive behavior supports. Now, what's the flip of this is that a lot of times you'll see in school settings that they are very driven by the old school punishment, that they want to punish people into behaving properly. Now, you and I know that that doesn't work, but sometimes it's news to other people. And by the way, you and I know that it works, but we still challenge it ourselves as well, right? Because we've all been raised to think if somebody does something, well, we need to punish them. Our society is driven that way. Our education system is driven that way. we've all been brought into that system. We know that it's more effective if we do positive behavioral supports. And I really want to encourage everybody that when you have a BIP, which is a behavioral intervention plan that goes with your IEP, that we write in there some sort of a sentence, we get them to include in it that this student responds to positive behavioral supports, and that is the way that we will address things. You don't have to say to them, but punishment strategies don't work. Perfect example, the phone conversation that I was having this morning was a mom who was very upset because her child had done 2 lengthy pieces of work that were very difficult for them, turned them in, and they did not get credit because the teacher said it was late and that they had already told the student, you know, you have to get this in, you have to get this in. And the teacher said to the mom, because we need to teach him responsibility. Okay. Well, you know, I get it. I understand what that teacher thinks is happening. And yes, responsibility is a great thing, but that's number 45 on the list of things to do. First and foremost, we want to make it that they are excited to learn and stop and consider, you know, what are we teaching this child? If we say, well, you did all that work, but you didn't do it in time, so you get no credit whatsoever, what is the likelihood that that child will do extra credit ever again? Child who's on the autism spectrum. Unlikely, right? But I was saying if you have it written into the IEP that only positive reward strategies will be used for interventions for behavior, then you can go back and say you can't, that's a punishment strategy. It's a ridiculous one and it's not going to be effective. And besides which, it's in our IEP, it's in the behavior intervention plan that you need to use positive behavior supports. So just another way that we can protect ourselves. You will find, my son had a lovely teacher a couple of years ago, and I had said this to her, we you know, and it was written in the IEP, positive behavioral supports. She's like, oh, I don't use punishment ever. We never use punishment. And then Em came home very upset one day because some of the other kids in the class, the teacher doesn't really trip over it. So if you didn't push your chair in, then after everybody else came in and sat down, you would have to get up and take your chair and push it in 20 times. So my son had pushed his chair in, but one of the other kids moved it out so that he would have to do that. And the teacher made him do it. And, you know, and I came to school and said, okay, we have to talk about this. Because he came home and was so upset, like debilitatingly upset, and was not going to be able to go back to school, you know, because they did it to me. They're going to keep doing it. I'm going to have to push in my chair. I had to stand in front of everyone. You know, I was made to look like an idiot. You know, I don't want to ever go back to school. That's what his response was. And I was saying to her, I said, you know, we need to figure out something that we can do about this, because we can't have that happen where he never wants to come to school again. And I said, we can't use punishment strategies. And she said, I would never use a punishment strategy. And I said, the consequence for having the chair out is that you have to do something that's unpleasant. Let's talk about right, like what punishment is to you. I don't know, right? And she totally didn't see it that way. That wasn't. But in any case, he didn't have to do that again. Instead, what we set in place was a reward for every time that he did push his chair in. He never had a problem again. And by the way, the other kids, once they realized, oh, if we pull his chair out, he doesn't have to do that, they never did that again to him. So I'm just saying. Positive behavior supports are what work. We always have to flip the equation and go, okay, it makes sense to me with my, you know, this is how I was raised, that we push the chair in 20 times. But what are we really doing? We're really making the child uncomfortable. And for some children, they can just ride that out. For kids on the autism spectrum, not so much, right? Especially when it's already a task that maybe is a little bit tough for them, going to school, being a part of the social thing. We don't want to mess with that, right? Instead, we flip it and go, how can we make it a reward for doing the good behavior and not rewarding when they do the thing that we don't want to do? That's positive behavior supports. And it is something, that is a term that they use a lot in classrooms. And you can throw that around with them and they'll go, oh, okay, we can do that. All right, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. our question kind of goes hand in hand with the positive supports. We want to know from you today, what is your biggest reinforcer and what is your child's biggest reinforcer? What is the thing that, like, if I think right now, okay, there's something I really don't want to do, and the list is 22 feet long, right? But if I were to take the time, and I don't always do this, but it's good to do this with ourselves, and it's good to model this. If I were to take the time and say, okay, what could I have as a reinforcer for doing that thing that I really don't want to do? And often we shortchange ourselves and we think, well, I should just do it because it's my job, or I should just do it because I need to, or I should just suck it up, right? And that's all very well and good, but the truth of the matter is that if you find a way to reward yourself, it's so much more positive. You'll get the thing done faster this time, but you'll go back to it more the next time. If you say to yourself, okay, I've got to get this report written, and my reinforcer is that when I'm done with that, I'm going to give myself a half an hour to go, shop, or whatever is the thing that flips your switch. It's different for everybody. Maybe it's take the long bubble bath. Maybe it's, this weekend to get to sit down and read a book that you don't have to read. Whatever, whatever it is. I know people who are like, if I can just do this, then at 5 o'clock I get to have a glass of wine. As long as it's, it's a glass of wine and not the whole bottle, right? Right? But it's important that you do that for yourself. And then the other part of this is that when you were thinking about what's reinforcing to you, you might then think, oh, well, I know that would be reinforcing to somebody else. No. And especially with our kids, just because something is reinforcing to us doesn't mean that it's reinforcing to them. Now, if we want what's reinforcing to us to be reinforcing to them, we need to pair it with something that's already reinforcing to them. And then eventually it will be reinforcing to them. When I started this show, I have to tell you that the whole giving Christmas gifts and going shopping for Christmas and putting up the Christmas tree was not reinforcing to my child. And I started pairing those things with other things, and now it's really reinforcing to him. So worthwhile to work on. So think about it. What's reinforcing to you? What's reinforcing to them? And then do something reinforcing for yourself today, and do something reinforcing for your child. Okay, we always have a topic of the week. Our topic this week is developing strengths. Taking those things. I always think about Temple Grandin talking about how she had strengths within her that her mom and her aunt in particular fed. They just fed those strengths. They didn't worry as much about what she couldn't do, although when they came into something that was affecting, something that she couldn't do that was affecting her way of getting to do the thing that was her strength, then they shored that up and found the way to use what she did like to shore that up. And that's what positive behavioral supports are all about. Feed the strength, shore up the stuff that would get in the way of that other stuff, right? We're not trying to change people and make them into people that they aren't. At least we shouldn't be. Our individuals who are on the autism spectrum are fabulous just the way they are. They really and truly are. But with any disorder, it suggests, as Dr. Granpeche was saying yesterday, there's some element of it that's holding you back from something that does matter to you, right? If you really want to work a job and you're not able to because of one aspect of something, then it stands to reason that if we can help to circumvent, go around, or get rid of that thing that is barring you from being able to do what you want to do, then that makes sense to do. And I think that's what good quality ABA and good quality positive behavioral support is all about. So that's what we're talking about. Some of the different things that we got planned for the show today. Brian Turtle, who was with us already, we're going to give you an update on some autism news. We're going to answer some of the questions that you guys have been writing in, but we're going to really break down how to play games, why it's important to play games, and what some of the different lessons are. And if you're at all in question about how to play games, I'm going to recommend that you check out Skills, and we're going to talk a little bit about how Skills can be a great companion for looking at playing games. I hope that for all of you, you're going to find some time to play a game in the next couple of weeks. At least one. It's a rite of passage. It's really a good thing to do. So stick with us. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back and talk how do we play games. We'll be right back.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're going to take a couple of minutes to talk about playing games and how you do it. One of the things that's fascinating to me is that sometimes you just take things for granted. I've said before that I don't know who taught me how to be interactive with little kids with board games and with books, but they did. And I know for years I just took it for granted that everybody got that lesson at some point, and then it was pointed out to me. I read a book in front of somebody and they said, well, what are you doing? And it was like, oh, okay, well, share. So we never want to assume that everybody knows how to do something. And there are some very specific things that you can do to help yourself out to play board games. First of all, one of the things that I really encourage that you do is that you start young. There are some very basic board games out there that everybody should have in their arsenal, like Candyland. Candyland is a perfect example of an early board game. So if you've got little kids, the great thing about Candyland is that it's a pre-reader game. There's a little bit of counting involved, but I honestly think you can attempt to play it with a 2-year-old. Probably at 3, you're really cooking with gas with Candyland, right? And then by 4, you can move into other things like Chutes and Ladders and Hi-Ho Cherry-O and things like that. But here's what happens when you start with board games earlier. And if you already missed that, don't panic, because we're going to get to that in a minute, how you can catch up on those kinds of things, okay? So one of the reasons why board games are so super duper important is that immediately we're going to teach taking turns. Okay, and taking turns is something that's really important. Probably a precursor for that would be teaching waiting, right? So we would do a little bit of work on waiting before we did taking turns. Now think about why taking turns is such an important skill for kids to have. You're gonna go to the playground, right, with your little toddler, and there's a period of time in which our kids are often indistinguishable from other kids. Like, it would take a trained eye to see at a year which kids have autism and which ones don't, right? A really trained eye at a year. And at a year old, if you're going to the playground and your child is already starting to walk at a year, but when you go to get on the slide or on the swing, it's really you that's deciding when they go down the slide, right? But by the time they're 2, there is an element where the kids are all running and they're doing whatever, and they're going to get on the slide, they're going to get on the swing themselves, and they really have no socialization skills, right? They'll, push other kids out of the way, or they'll be timid and they won't get on the swing because somebody else is there, but they really don't get it. But by the time they're 3, we see that the kids start to veer, and there are kids that start to understand social cues. They start to understand, well, that person is on the swing, so I don't get to do it. It takes a little perspective taking, and we can't really get to the discussing perspective taking yet because they're not quite old enough, but there's a social element of that, right? If we've taught waiting, and they're a great lesson in skills for teaching waiting and doing that with very young kids, but you could do it with older kids too. If you've got a 14-year-old who doesn't know how to wait, I encourage you to do the waiting lesson in skills. Okay, but so if we've taught them waiting and then we start to play a board game, and there is a lesson for taking turns in skills. There's a whole set of lessons, in fact, on early board games. It's in the same, it's in play, and it's in the same lesson with nursery rhymes and reading books like that. So if we've taught them the waiting and we've taught them a little bit of turn taking, playing a board game, then we can talk to them about taking turns on the swing, which has that social element to it, which will help them to make friends. It will help them to be liked and included, because when kids, by the time you're 4, if you miss those cues, then the kids go off and are playing something and your child misses other opportunities. So start that turn taking really, really young with those early board games. Then as they get older, it's endless what endless games. See, it's endless what the different lessons can be and what it is you can be learning. I swear I would love to transport. We have a game closet that over the last 10 years we have been adding games to, and a lot of times we go to garage sales and we buy games. We've bought some of the best games at garage sales. I love to buy games when it's this time of year and when they're on sale. I keep track of what's on sale during Black Friday and on the weekend sales before the holidays. I then love to go to the sales after the holidays. One of my favorite stores to go after the holidays to buy board games that are amazing is Barnes & Noble. They will discount all of their games after the holidays. And we got a game a year ago that my son begs for an opportunity to play that's called You've Been Sentenced. And I'm not making it the toy of the day because I don't think it's available. I think you have to find it someplace on sale. But this is what I'm talking about, these amazing games that you can find. And we found it at a time in which it was so pivotal because my son was kind of messing up the sequence of sentences. I always say that he speaks English as if it's his second language. You know how I have friends who English is the second or third language that they have, and sometimes they put the order of the words just slightly different. And I really wanted Jem to sort of understand it, but he's pretty, he's got to see it in a whole concept way. So in this one, you get cards that have words on them, and you have to make a sentence out of the cards. And it's hysterical, the sentences that people come up with. It is absolutely, and my husband always, it gets ridiculous. He made up a sentence that said something about the dog milk is Slurpee. And And we all were like, what is dog milk? And he's like, well, the dog's milk. It's, oh my goodness. We laughed and laughed and laughed, and it still comes up in conversation. But the benefit of it is that my son orders his sentences better. It's crazy the things that you can work on. So ask yourself, what skill is it that I'd like to work on with my child? And I guarantee you there's probably a game out there that will work on that. But when we sit down to the games, we need to make it special. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fabulous. I already find it really reinforcing. If we can get a bunch of people at a table to play a game, I'm in heaven. I absolutely love it. When I was a child, my family played something called finger poker. And it was developed by the Finger family, and they would play it at the Finger family reunion. I'm not making it up, okay? And the Finger family was from Finland. I'm also not making that up, right? And it was a really simple game in which everybody gets dealt one card. And so we, in our family, we start kids playing this when they're 3 years old, and sometimes they have to be on somebody's lap to play, right? But there's a way you can win money, everybody has to have 15 cents to play. I don't want to go into all the rules, although it's very simple. But as a kid, that was the thing that I looked forward to more than anything else. Everybody was at the same table together. Everybody laughed and was hysterical, and would cheer and would win. So if I can get a group of people around a table, to me, that is holiday fabulousness, right? And I really wanted for my child to love that too. What we were talking about before, that's my reinforcer. It wasn't his reinforcer. So I need to make it his reinforcer. So what do? I pair it. He's going to be doing my reinforcer, but I'm going to heap stuff that he loves on it. Now, for some kids, that means having the most fabulous drink that they never get to have at the table. I will tell you that it's important if you're going to do that, if they're little kids, have it in a sippy cup, because things get pushed over when you're playing games and you don't want to get your game all ruined. So either a sippy cup, or everybody has bottles now. So that if something gets dumped, it isn't all over the table, right? Other times it's, whatever snacky thing that makes it really, really fun. I think minimize other distractions when you sit down to the table. This is not the thing where you have the TV going in the background, and probably not even the Christmas music in the background. It can be too much sensory-wise, right? If you're going to play with a group of people, you want to have had an opportunity to talk about how we play the game and what the rules are to the game, separate from the time that you're explaining it to everybody else, right? Have done a practice run for it. And I'm going to say this, and people are going to go, no, but at least the first time, or sometime in the first time that you play, let the child experience the joy of winning. Okay, now notice I didn't say let them win, because that may not be the thing for that kid, but let them experience the joy of winning. Maybe it's not them, maybe it's somebody else, but we have huge party around the winning, so that they get that winning is a really cool thing. Right? There is a lesson in skills that's winning and losing, where we teach our kids how to win and enjoy it, and we teach them how to lose and not be a poor loser, right? But the loser comes later. Let's deal with the reinforcement of that winning is a really cool thing. And when I was a kid, and if you won at finger poker, everybody who was playing put in 15 cents. And, so if there were 15 people playing, that was big money to me. But a lot of times our kids don't understand money. So if it's a kid that's too young to understand money, and I remember my grandmother, when the little ones would win, my grandmother would come over and be like, I'll buy that money from you for X, Y, or Z. And it was something that child wanted more than anything else, right? And in that way, she taught us money is good, because you trade it for other things. So make sure that they experience the joy of winning, and what that can entail, and have it be a meaningful reinforcer, and have there be no time between the winning and the reinforcement, right? We want it right happening at the same time. And then you can eventually work on the losing so that they understand that the benefit of playing the game isn't just for winning, that you will lose and that losing is okay, and how to appreciate when somebody else wins. Those lessons are all very clearly defined in Skills. You can find them at skillsforautism.com. But I think that it's really, you have to do more than just play by the rules. It's your best acting when you come to the table to play board games. My husband is the perfect example. I need to videotape my husband playing a board game because he becomes commedia dell'arte. He is hilarious. Every year it is tradition, usually at Thanksgiving, that we play apples to apples in a huge group of people. But my husband, it's a floor show. He'll be holding his cards and he's playing peekaboo with people, and he's flashing cards and doing did you see it? Did you see it? Or getting, if it's a glass table, getting underneath and looking at the table. He's making it the most fun thing in the world. All of our kids are different. All kids require something else to make it fun for them. My husband is also the king of making faces and going, oh my gosh, what do I have? And you find the way to draw the kids in. My grandmother used to always swear when we were playing finger poker, which everybody found hilarious. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the thing for you to do in your home, but find something. The board game, is kind of fun and exciting, but you got to really sell that this is a time out of time when it's sort of like different things, different rules apply, and more fun will be had when we are all together around the table playing this game. If you do that, you will see very quickly that your kids love to come to the table and play a game. I think it's a really good thing. And when you think about all the skills that you can work on in a safe way, it's truly, truly amazing. I hope that you will play some board games over this holiday season. I know video games are fun too, but find some time to play some really good board games and endless games. They've got a great variety to choose from. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about a little bit more about our Sensitive Santa event that's coming up on the 20th. So stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here this morning and we're chugging along, having some technical difficulties, so if you're still with us, woohoo! I wanted to talk a little bit about the Sensitive Santa event that we have coming up, and then I'm going to transition to some of the questions that you guys have sent in. So we are having a Sensitive Santa event here in Los Angeles, and I apologize if you're not in the Los Angeles area, but they're having Sensitive Santa events all over the country. So if you can't get to ours, I really want to encourage you to Google Sensitive Santa event and put the area that you live in to see what comes up. You know, if there isn't one, you can make one. You really can. It's not that hard to do. So at our particular Sensitive Santa event, though, we are going to be having ours on December 20th. We're going to be talking about it all next week. It is happening at a We Rock the Spectrum in Tarzana, California. So if you have the way to get to Tarzana, California on December 20th, you've got to register. There's only one way to get in. It is a ticketed event, although the tickets are free. There is no cost for the tickets, but you still have to have a ticket. I mean, it's going to kill me, but we have to be that way about it, because in order for it to stay a Sensitive Santa event, we don't want kids having to wait in line and not get in. And we want to make sure that every single child that comes gets a toy. We're giving away the toys that we have that the manufacturers have given to us that are toys of the day. Like, we're going to be giving away Spill and Spell Roll Call. And we're going to be giving away Red Light, Green Light 1, 2, 3. And we got a shipment of toys yesterday from Leapfrog. And Leapfrog's going to be with us here on Tuesday. You can't even imagine. It's so exciting. I'm shaking in a good way. So truly, truly amazing. And Think Fun has sent a shipment of toys. It's good, you guys, okay? So if you can get there, you got to register for a ticket. Kelby's got the address up there. When you go there, you'll see that there are different times and you can register. You want to register for every single child that is coming. Register for one ticket. That ticket gets you in to see Santa and it gets you a toy, okay? You can bring all the neurotypical siblings. In fact, we want you to. Those kiddos deserve a toy just like their siblings do, and we want them to see that, having a brother or sister on the autism spectrum kind of rocks sometimes. So they get to come to We Rock the Spectrum, they get to meet Santa, you get to take pictures. You're going to be taking the pictures, because you know how you go to the mall now and they won't let you take your own pictures? We're not doing that. Nobody's going to sell you a picture. There's no one to take a picture but you. So bring your phones and bring your cameras. We're going to give you time to take the picture. We're going to give the child some time so that you get the good picture, the eye contact that you want to get, not be rushed through all that. They'll be able to play on some of the gym equipment. It'll be fun, and they'll get a really spectacular toy. Okay? You do not need to register for a ticket for the adults, only for the children. But make sure that you have one ticket for every child, because we really have to keep the numbers small enough so that we don't get into sensory madness. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it stays a good sensory Sensitive Santa event. I hope to see you there. Because we will have such a good time and your kids will get a spectacular toy. I'm very excited about that. Okay, so I want to deal with some of the questions that you guys have written in. First of all, I want to thank Mike for writing in and saying that his reinforcer is watching baseball or watching Law and Order SVU. Mike, I do not understand either of those. Those are not my reinforcers. But doesn't that just bring home that we all have different reinforcers and we all have different things that we enjoy? Both of those are like worse than watching paint dry for me. I can't. Law and Order SVU makes me break out in hives. I'm not the fan of that show because I can't even watch the opening of it. I get upset because of the subject matter. So, different strokes for different folks, right? Somebody else wrote in and said, Mrs. Shannon, who is a good play date for a girl on the autism spectrum? Is it a bossy, older girl like for the boys? Well, it really depends, doesn't it? Because what is it that you want to work on with the girl? Do we need to work on turn taking? Do we need to work on conversation? Because it would be a different thing for each. So if you want to work on taking turns, then I would probably get a boy to come in, because the boy is going to wait for the girl to, to say, unless it's a really bossy boy. There are bossy boys too. If you've got a bossy girl and she's always ordering everybody else around, then I would make sure that I got an older bossy girl, one who can put her in her place and be like, no, we're doing it this way. She needs to experience that, right? And she might get frustrated by that and come to you and say, she's not letting it do my way, which is a great opportunity for you to talk about, remember when your friend said the same thing? That's what it feels like when somebody constantly tells you what to do. It's not fun. Why don't you go back to her and suggest that you take turns, so you'll teach her how to advocate for herself. So it really depends. It's kind of a dicey thing about, and it's okay to try. And here's something that maybe we haven't said here before on the show. It's okay to have a play date and not have it be successful, right? I know a lot of times I'm like, well, it has to be perfect. And sometimes I didn't have play dates because I was so concerned about, could he handle it? What I've learned is try it. And if it doesn't go well, then you can change some element of it. If it doesn't go well, maybe you have a therapist there the next time that you do it. Or for some kids, it's very clear you have a play date and you go, well, that's not going to work again. We're going to wait a couple of years before you have a play date with that person again. And that's okay. But experiment and see. And what you might find is that depending on the kid, you work on different things, right? So that if it's convenient for you to have a play date with the boy who's a little bit younger and not as assertive, that you think to yourself, okay, well, this is when we're going to work on this skill with her. But then when the bossy older girl comes to play, then we're going to work on a different skill. Could be really fun. It's like extending your therapy team, having those other kids. Listen, the friends of mine that have multiple children, and one of them is on the spectrum, they tell me that their best therapists are their neurotypical kids, because they get lots of opportunity. I'm going to sneeze. They get lots of opportunity. They don't put up with any kind of nonsense. It's like, this is how it's going to be, my way or the highway. And they never go away. They never give up. So we got to love that. So experiment a little bit. Okay, I want to talk about a question that we didn't get to with Dr. Granpichet. Somebody wrote in and said, hi, thank you for all you do. My son is 5 in a mainstream class. One teacher, 18 kids. I'm getting frustrated with the school because they minimize my concerns. He's crying in class when frustrated, and they say it's normal. He has areas of concern on report card, not reading and adding, and they won't provide more support. They just say, wait and see. He scored low average on speech eval, so they cut his language therapy to 90 minutes. I don't know what that says. Social skills in natural setting cut to 40 minutes from 100. And I'm concerned because when I go, he isn't generalizing. They say that he met his goal of going back and forth for exchanges with peers. I don't see that. I volunteer. Please help. The school isn't listening to my concerns. And then they continue to say, they say he's initiating and maintaining 4 exchanges with the peers, but I don't see that at school. They say his language is almost age appropriate. I don't see that. It's getting uncomfortable. I want to have a good relationship with school. They keep saying they only focus on educational concerns when I mention he can't tell me about his day or have a conversation. My son said yesterday he hates school and he is all alone and needs me. They won't provide a para either. Please help. I'm ready to switch schools if I need. My son won't regress. Okay. Well, so let's talk about a couple of different things here. It concerns me greatly when a school says, wait and see. And it concerns me greatly when they say things like, well, all we're responsible for is focusing on educational concerns. There's a couple of things you can put in your arsenal to talk to them about that you want to go to rightslaw.com, first of all, WRIGHTSLAW.com. If you guys are wondering where I get my arguments from when I'm looking for an argument to go back to the school, I go to Rights Law. It's a great resource that you can go in and you can search different topics. Like when I needed an argument to talk about least restrictive environment, I went to Rights Law. And what they do is they will relate back to the language in IDEA that gets you the thing that you want. Because what you will find, first of all, I'm not as proficient in IDEA as I want to be. I feel like every year I add a portion to it that I'm like, oh, I haven't considered that portion. Like least restrictive environment was the thing that I needed to learn this year. So you're constantly adding, but it's hard to understand the full breadth of what IDEA covers. And the teachers, they don't have time. And the administrators should make the time, but they don't. A lot of times they are educated by the parents. So we do that. We educate them. So go into Rights Law and look up about goals that are conversation and goals that are outside of school, because there is a part of IDEA that there's a sentence about that our children are entitled to a free, appropriate public education in a least restrictive environment where they have a floor of opportunity in which to access the curriculum. And then there's a sentence after that that has a phrase in it, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have that part memorized, but it's in there, that it talks about that it's important for them to be able to access educational goals and occupational goals. That's the part that you need to memorize and be searching about Rights Law about, because schools will always say, well, we only have to worry about educational, and that's not the truth. And the first time you trot out the section in IDEA and go, no, it says you're responsible for educational and occupational goals, and how is it that you think that my son is going to work a job if he can't hold a conversation? Whoop, right? And this is also for social goals too, because schools will say, well, we don't worry about the social stuff. I'm sorry, how is he supposed to meet his occupational goals if he can't play with the other kids on the playground, right? So rightslaw.com, and you really got to find that specific sentence so that we know what we're talking about. I think with this particular school, it's so great that you're volunteering, because and I hope that you're keeping records about what it is that you're seeing. If you haven't been, start doing that. Just write down when you went, what you saw, what your concerns are. You can also start emailing them and keeping a record of the emails that you've got talking about some of what your different concerns are. Okay, so they're saying that he's maintaining 4 exchanges with peers, and you're saying that you're not seeing it. So ask them, is there an opportunity that you can come, and if they got a place where you can observe, or can they videotape, because you're not seeing it home and you're contesting whether the goal has been met or not. That you're not seeing it home, it's not happening at home, you don't believe that it's happening there. Can they show you that it's happening there? Because if it's happening there, one of two things. They're saying it's happening and it's not, or it's happening and it just, like you said, isn't generalizing at home. Then we can put IEP goals into the IEP that work on generalizing that. Because maybe what it's sounding like to me is that the goals that they've written in weren't extensive enough, right? Which is often the case. They're only going to write in goals that they want to be responsible for, but we have the option to ask them to add goals, and we can negotiate with them about it. So if they're saying that, well, the goal was for them to do 4 exchanges with peers, did it say across settings and with different people? This is where we get into really technical things, because if he can do it in the speech room with no one else around, only with the speech teacher, okay, that's good. But now, if he's met that goal, then we need to say that he can do it with the speech teacher in the lunchroom. And then he needs to be able to do it with the teacher. So we're changing people. He needs to do it with the teacher in the classroom. And we're building all these different places that he can do it so that eventually he can do it at home too. So if those goals aren't written in there, we really want to get on them and make them write those goals. It concerns me because the feel that I'm getting from you is that they're saying, well, we've done enough. And that should never be the case. If they're saying, well, he's almost at grade level, questions that you can say, and have a tape recorder. Every time you have an opportunity to have a discussion with them in an IEP, have a tape recorder. And if it's not an IEP, when they say something, make sure after they've said it to you, you go home and you write an email and you go, as per our conversation today, and I got this from a lawyer, as per our conversation today, when I said that my concern was this and you said this, and then ask a question. Because by doing that, then they write back and they answer your question. What you've done is made a legal record of, I said this, you said this. And if they don't say, no, I didn't say that, right, then it's the same as if they did, they're agreeing that they said that. But ask them a question so that they have to respond to it. And then keep all those emails, right? We only got 5 minutes left, Kelby's telling me, so I got to hurry up here. Okay, so make sure that you talk with them about the fact that they are reducing his hours, but that you are not seeing the benefit of it, and that you don't want the child to regress. And then get some more goals in there, because these are people that are going to do just enough. So it's going to be incumbent upon you to pile goals on them. When you do that, it puts them in a position where it's difficult, because if they can't meet the goals, or if they don't meet the goals, then they're in non-compliance, and that's what they're trying to avoid. Maybe they don't have enough people, maybe they're tired, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Your child deserves to have what's appropriate. And what's appropriate is that he can do a 4-person exchange in more places than in just one place with one person. So you can do this, and if you need help, you can write to me specifically, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Let's get some more goals written in there. When they meet a goal, we don't go, okay, well, good, let's back off. I know what I was going to say too. When they say his language is almost age appropriate, a lot of times they go, well, he just barely is under. And what you want to say to them is, so you're saying he doesn't qualify for services? Are you saying, is that what you're saying? Because that's not the case. If he's not at age appropriate, then he qualifies for services. So just call them on that monkey business, right? Be nice, but be persistent, and let them know that you know what you're talking about. All right, I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to sneeze. I don't know what's happening, but it's been a very... Oh my goodness. Excuse me, I knew it was coming. Okay, sorry about that. But in any case, all right, we've got a very exciting show for you on Tuesday. 2 things are happening on Tuesday. We have the Leapfrog people who are going to be joining us via Skype. I love me some serious Leapfrog. They have donated so many toys. My office is full of toys for our sensitive Santa, and they have got a new thing that's out that's called the Epic. You guys are going to see it on Tuesday. It's absolutely amazing. It's going to blow your socks off. So make sure that you're watching on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, we have Dr. Linda Copeland. She's going to be answering your questions live. We always love that. Lastly, but next week it's our last week of shows of the year. So last opportunity of the year, not forever, to talk to Dr. Grant Pichet. Last opportunity for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Last time to talk to Dr. Linda Copeland. So send your questions in over the weekend for Dr. Copeland. Let's end the year on a big, big bang. And I also want to tell you guys that that doesn't mean you can't get a hold of us we're going to be taking an extended break over the holidays. But it doesn't mean you can't get a hold of us. You can message me, s.penrod@autism-live. You can talk to me on Facebook. And Jem and I are going to try to do some periscoping. I'm setting us the goal of periscoping at least 1 minute every day. So definitely subscribe to our Periscope so that you can check out what we're doing. We're gonna do some crazy fun monkey business, Jem and I, over the holiday break. All right, we're out of time. I really want to thank you guys for sticking with us as we had a very difficult show. Really want to thank Kelby because I'm sure his hair is gray. When I go into the control booth, I'm going to see that he is gray after this show. We want to thank Brian Turtle and Endless Games for being our toy of the day and for donating to our Sensitive Santa event. And most of all, we want to thank you guys. Remember, si se puede, we can do this together. We hold hands, right? You're not alone. We're totally out of time, but I appreciate you guys. Happy Hanukkah to those of you who are celebrating Hanukkah. Next week, we're off the hook with the Merry Christmas and the Happy New Year. So, out of time. Give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you as well. Bye-bye for now.